Everyone, Christina Simmons from Say Yes to Holiness here. So this week for our connections between faith and life, I wanted to give you something that could really help you grow in your interior life during Lent. So I'm going to focus upon three things that are going to help you grow spiritually. The first, and is a part of the 4 steps to holiness that I always talk to people about, is daily prayer. But beyond that is the fact that daily prayer needs to be at a specific time. We need to be setting aside a specific time and showing up for that time, that consistency. And if we truly want to grow closer to God, if we truly want to become like Jesus, and interestingly enough, become joyful, become cheerful, then sticking to our daily periods of prayer are key. Because what happens is that when we come and we spend time with God and we are present as much as we can, we're generous of heart and mind by being open to how God might be speaking to us, and we don't fudge on the time that we've set aside. So if you set aside 10 minutes, then 10 minutes it is. If you set aside 30 minutes, then 30 minutes it is. But same time and same amount of time and showing up. And when we do that, what happens is that we will find joy. The other is 2 other things that we can do. So in addition to our daily prayer and setting a particular time for our prayer, as well as not being generous and not skipping on that time, are mortifications. Now, mortifications get a bad rap, but I want to share something from Maximilian Kolbe very briefly, where he said, mortification is a power which, together with prayer, so what was our first thing? Daily prayer. But together with prayer, obtains divine graces, purifies souls, inflames them with love for God and one's neighbor. And, so this is something that we need to be mindful of, is that by taking daily prayer and then mortifications. So what are mortifications? Well, there's 2 types. There's passive and there's active. And passive mortifications are those things that we'll run into without us even having to look for them. So those things that we do not like, we cannot change, didn't choose, and we don't understand. Anytime you run into those, that is a passive mortification when we freely say, Lord, I don't like it, I didn't choose it, I can't change it, and I don't understand it, but if this is your will for me in this moment, then yes. And we submit to it. We're obedient to it. That's a passive mortification. So the better we can get at that, then the more able God is able to work in our hearts. The Holy Spirit's able to work and mold us. Active mortifications are those things that we tend to be more familiar with, especially during Lent. So the almsgiving, the fasting, these are active mortifications that we can be about. But I want to address the interior mortifications that we can be about. So often we're so focused on the exterior behaviors that we forget that our interior selves are what then cause or help those exterior behaviors happen. So there's 3 types about how we can go about controlling our internal senses. So our imagination, our memory, and our intelligence. So what might be a mortification of imagination? So all 3 of these are focused upon helping us achieve purity of heart. And remember, in the Beatitudes, those who are pure of heart will see God. And this is what we desire during the Lenten season. So mortification of our imagination. This is where we avoid that interior monologue that's going over and over and over again, where we are, going over, it could be any kind of fantasy, could be we're having a conversation with someone that came off badly and we're reliving it. We felt slighted, or, what would I say to them if I was to run into them now? And what happens is that this monologue continues to have us focused upon ourselves. Rather, turn it into a dialogue with God and say, Lord, what is it in this, instance that happened that you desire for me to learn so that I can adjust my behavior? And if I'm confronted with this situation again, I can change, that I can be more like you. So that mortification of the imagination is about, instead of just dialoguing with ourselves or looking in the mirror and having that conversation with whatever person we were wanting to talk to, instead we dialogue with God and allow him to be able to guide us and to help us be able to find our peace and to be able to set aside, this monologue that's going on in our heads about something that's already happened. This too is tied to mortification of the memory, of where we are continually like reliving our glory moments of where we won a race if we were an athlete, or we got a great review for a paper that we did, or other such things. But we don't continue to waste time, or we're reminiscing about a former love, from high school. When we do this, it can lead us into more serious temptations. So for us to mortify our memory, is it good to remember those things that we have achieved? Absolutely, in their proper context. The final mortification is of our intelligence. And what this is, very simply, is that we are squarely going about the business of concentrating on the duty of the present moment. So if we have a task to do, then we apply ourselves to it. We don't daydream. We don't, think that we are the only ones who know what to do, but rather we strive to live in humility and also with charity, in figuring out there might be a better way, but we tend to the duty of the moment and we try to do it to the best of our abilities. So one of the big things is that as we are mortifying our imagination, our memory, and our intelligence, we become more and more pure of heart. And what this does is that we become more and more the men and women of God. So let's make up our minds to grow closer to God during these days, and to remember that it's not just our exterior behavior, the fasting and the almsgiving, but it's also interiorly that we're being called to cultivate. So when we do that, remembering the words of Maximilian Kolbe, when we take prayer along with mortification, it obtains divine graces, purifies souls, and inflames them with love for God and one's neighbor. And this is what Lent is all about. I hope that you have found this to be of great value to you today. And if you're longing or desire to go ever deeper and put your spiritual life first, I invite you to check out the Camino. It is an opportunity for you throughout a year-long process in a group of like-minded people who are striving to grow in holiness, along with customized coaching and a personalized way of being able to apply all of your habits in your spiritual life into a plan of life. Then the Camino is a place for you. So I invite you to consider it. So just go to www.sayyestoholiness.com/LEL-Camino, CAMINO. So I'll put it in the show notes, but I hope that you know that I will continue to be praying for you throughout this Lenten season, and I really hope that you will put into effect these 3 things that will help you grow in your interior life and to continue your Lenten journey. God bless.